Alright, so in this video we're checking out the Eachine Flying Fish. This is a new FPV plane that's actually made by Skyzone Atom RC. I don't have that version yet, but I believe it's going to be exactly the same. So this is a 650mm wingspan plane, 570mm in length. It's a twin engine glider style, and it's very easy to put together, which actually surprisingly did not take me very long to assemble. Actually took me longer to put the stickers on because getting the end pieces on here is not possible because it's a curved surface. But that's that's out of the scope of this video anyway. Basically all I have to do is put the wing on. Everything is already pre-installed for this version in terms of the motors and the servos and the ESCs. Also the control rods and horns are all pre-installed. So there's just two screws that are underneath this little cover here, which actually houses the video transmitter, which is a 500 milliwatt power switchable video transmitter. And by the way, this is the FPV version, so I've got a Foxeer Razor Nano camera in the front here. If you get the plug-and-play version, you just get the motors and servos installed and everything. You don't get the FPV stuff, the camera and the video transmitter. So that's the only difference between the two versions, the plug-and-play and the FPV version. But the wing just screws on with a screw here and over here. You got your, I think this is the rudder servo, the elevator servos there on the back. You have these tubes, like guide wires or guide tubes that basically keep the control rod nice and stiff and doesn't let it flux, so you have good control of the surfaces in the back. And there's also another one for the elevator as well. So the horizontal stabilizer also just screws in here in the back. All the control horns were pre-installed. You just slide the stabilizer in and then use this thumb screw to screw that in. So that's really all it took. 3 screws. You do have to tighten down the elevator control horn, and obviously you want to calibrate everything. There's like these little screws right in the end, typical of most of these control rods, just to make sure that it's nice and flush when you turn everything on. The servos for the control rods for the ailerons were pre-calibrated, so there was no adjustment needed there. The two motors are these like tiny 1105 style motors, like micro motors. 1105, 5000 kV, and they're using these 3-inch gem fan propellers. Now the way the system works for the 2-in-1, I guess they call it a 2-in-1 ESC. So there's actually a board on the underside of the wing, which I thought was a flight controller, but it's not. It's just a 2-in-1 ESC that has basically both ESCs on a single board for both motors, and then it has a basically a servo connector that comes off of the board, one for throttle and one for the aileron controls for the 2 servos. And the two motor throttles are actually linked together into one signal unit. If you want to do differential thrust and that kind of stuff, you can separate those into separate control links or to separate channels, but right now the way it's actually set up, it's just one channel. And of course your servo connectors from the rear servos for the elevator and rudder, they come through from the back here on the inside, and then you just plug that all into your receiver. So I'm using the new Maytech Express LRS PWM receiver. So this is an all-in-one Express LRS receiver that has these pins and this little board. I'll put a picture up here what it looks like, and that basically has 5 PWM outputs, so you can control everything on the plane. And then I have the antenna of the receiver coming out of this hole in the bottom here, as you can see there, and I just have it taped to the bottom of the fuselage. Alright, so this is what the bottom of the wing looks like. There's a small nub right there. That's for the CG. This isn't documented in the manual. The manual is really basic. For most people that have built planes before, it's going to be really easy to figure this out. In fact, I didn't even read the manual, but for beginners, it might be a little bit challenging. So if you have questions on how to put this together, let me know in the comments below. So you get these 4.3 gram digital servos, the control rods. Of course, there's 4 of them on this plane, one for each aileron and rudder and elevator. So the canopy is held in by a magnet. You do get a spare canopy like this, and there's the magnet there. And I think this is for like a HD camera or something like that. If you want to, like maybe like Mr. 360 Go 2, it's going to be the CG is going to be fairly weight sensitive. So I don't know how feasible that would be. I added a piece of tape here to basically so I can pull up this canopy a little bit easier. And then I'm using a 3S 550 battery in here, and the CG is just about right, although it's still a little bit tail heavy according to the CG nubs. Of course, we'll have to fly it and make adjustments as needed. They're recommending a 3S 750, which might be a little bit heavier. My battery, this one here, weighs about I think it's like 50 grams, I believe. Might need a little bit more weight. Maybe if you had an HD camera and maybe a smaller battery, that could be something that'll make this balance out right. We'll find out here shortly when I go take it for a flight. But the battery compartment is pretty, I don't know, it's not super wide. It's a very narrow, thin fuselage. So I had a little bit of trouble figuring out which battery to use. A lot of my batteries are a little bit too tall or too fat, not long enough, etc. And again, they're recommending a 3S 750, but they didn't specify the exact weight. And of course, you can adjust the battery up, forwards, and backwards to adjust your CG. So we'll have to see how this does when we actually take off for a flight. Some of these planes can be very CG sensitive. So, another thing, before I mentioned the board that's on there, I thought it was a flight controller, but it's just a 2-1 ESC. So there's no stabilization, no gyro on this. So it's basically all manual flight, no self-level mode, nothing like that. So if you're looking for a beginner plane to learn on, this might not be the best plane for you because there's absolutely no help. You have to basically set up your radio. But it's a basic radio setup. Basically, it's aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder. So aileron is channel 1, elevator is channel 2, throttle is channel 3, and then rudder is channel 4. And that's how I plugged everything into the receiver, and everything works out for my radio. Of course, your radio might be a little bit different. If you are having trouble finding videos on how to do radio setups for, basically a standard RC plane, which is probably tens of thousands of videos already out there, let me know in the comments below and I'll try and help you out. Okay, let's go take this up in the air and give it a fly. Alright, so getting this to balance on the scale is pretty tricky, but it's around 220 grams all up weight with the 550 3S. And not including the tape there, I teared that off. So yeah, it's around 220, 222 grams. So they're targeting the sub 250. So with the 750 milliamp hour battery that they're recommending, which I think you can probably put in there if you put it way back, it's probably going to get close to the 250 or just a bit under, depending on the weight of your battery. But yeah, if you're looking for sub 250 FPV plane with the battery and the FPV stuff on there, no HD camera, this plane might be the one you're looking for. Alright, so I'm not sure how this is going to launch. No stabilizer. So I'm not sure if I can do FPV today. I might show this. I'll probably show it in this video, but I'm going to probably do this on another day, FPV on another day, because I have to find a way or figure out a way to launch it and get the goggles on, because it doesn't have a stabilizer. It's just not going to fly by itself. Okay, let's go ahead and take it off. Yeah, it looks tail heavy. So I don't have enough battery in there, even though I have it balanced on the CG points. Alright, so pretty calm day today. We'll get this up in the air, do a little line of sight, and then right to FPV. So there's no stabilizer on here. Whoa, too low. So yeah, it's a little tiny bit tail heavy, so I did move up to a 650. It's a little squirrely. I think I gotta reduce my rates a little bit here. So I'm gonna bring it in. All right, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and just FPV it right now. Okay, so basically this plane flies fairly well. It does fly with a high cruising speed, and they advertised in the product page that's about 20 kilometers per hour, and that's about right. So you need a larger area to fly this in versus where I'm flying it now. So I am actually going to put a stabilizer on this and find a larger place to fly this, because just going around in circles like this is kind of boring. Maybe also another day where the lighting is a little bit better, but lately the weather has been just crappy. Yeah, for California this is really bad. Cloudy every day like this, so not very interesting. But this plane for FPV I think really needs a stabilizer. And I'm going to see if I can put the one from ZoHD on here. I think it's called the Copilot. It's going to be a really tight fit to get all that stuff in here. I think that's one of the issues with this plane, is that it's not enough space for all the stuff you want to do for FPV, but you want to try and keep the weight under 250 grams. So there's obviously that big trade-off. And trying to find the right battery for this is also going to be a challenge, because I'm still a little bit tail heavy here. Anyway, I was going to do it for this first video. I'm going to have another one. It's actually a good plane. I'm actually going to have more videos on this one later. So stay tuned for those, and I'll talk to you later.